It's one of those times when the AAA publishers are all tuckered out from firing people and cleaning up that one bed they've been repeatedly shitting lately, so they have a bit of a sleep in their bed of shit, and the indies can have a chance to shine, and they certainly are shining right now as they stream out onto Steam like a glittering river of urine. But as I played another 5 pixel art cyberpunk traversal-focused Metroidvanias about someone with teal-coloured hair, my thoughts kept returning to an indie game I tried on my Wednesday stream a while back called Another Crab's Treasure. I was having trouble identifying my feelings towards it, but then it hit me. Oh yeah, enjoyment. I vaguely remember that. I enjoyed Another Crab's Treasure and I want to play it some more, so I did. And I'm going to do a proper review of Another Crab's Treasure, a name that going forward I shall shorten to Crabs. Crabs has really grown on me. I've been saying on social media, blimey, Crabs has really got me by the hairs. I've been saying to my wife, sorry we haven't had a chance to be intimate lately, darling. I'm just really struggling with Crabs. That and my advanced syphilis. Okay, I'm done with my early 90s too hot for TV late night stand-up bit. Let's talk about the game. Another Crab's Treasure is first and foremost a Souls-like, but astonishingly isn't about a grim, dark fantasy world creeping inexorably towards ruin and apocalypse, but about a cheerful cartoon undersea city of talking marine life, creeping inexorably towards ruin and apocalypse. We play as Krill, a timid little hermit crab in a tide pool leading an idyllic life of hiding under rocks trying not to be delicious to seagulls, when an evil taxman takes his shell and he's forced to venture into the larger ocean, finding it mired in corruption, bureaucracy, and non-biodegradable commercial goods. We go through the usual dance of coming up with new names for the standard Souls-like trappings, the way Bloodborne basically just changed soul to blood with the Microsoft Word Find and Replace function, so instead of esters, it's kelp, instead of bonfires, it's purple shells, and instead of souls for buying things and leveling up, it's microplastics, which is both a fun gag and a timely environmental message. Part of what drew me to Crabs is the surprisingly witty writing and surprisingly cynical tone for a game about an adorable cartoon crab with a shrill, quavering voice like Ash Ketchum talking into a fan. On that subject, it's probably the most flamboyantly voice-acted indie game I've played in a while. Everyone's really got their Hanna-Barbera hats on. The first boss in particular, I have no idea how you could get a more genuinely furious-sounding performance out of an actor without spending the entire studio session stealing coins out of his wallet and flicking them at his bollocks. So that's one way to bypass my Souls-like fatigue, but the most surefire method is to really mix up the established mechanics. Most Souls-likes, for example, use that tiresome old parry mechanic of pressing the block button just as you get hit, but Another Crab's Treasure has an original, interesting, sexy alternative wherein you release the block button just as you get hit. Steady on, Another Crab's Treasure. The last time anyone innovated that much, they got burned at the stake for witchcraft. The core combat does have a very overt focus on blocking, if that weren't already obvious from the release parry thing, or the main character's status as a tiny frightened sea animal whose main popular characteristic is their ability to hide under things. No shade, I'm just saying if you were bitten by a radioactive one, you wouldn't be fighting much crime, but you'd gain considerable insight into your neighbour's dustbins. And then there's the shell mechanic. As befits a hermit crab, you have the ability to grab any tin can, fast food container, or menstrual cup that's lying around and use it as a shell, each having different strengths and weaknesses and special attacks attached. The tin can is more durable but slows down your dodge roll, the menstrual cup is quicker but breaks more easily and will cause your restaurant to fail a government hygiene inspection, etc. What I like about the shell mechanic is that it boils down all that tiresome faffing about with equipment that was part of the Dark Souls experience. Ooh, could I put on some gauntlets and still get away with mid-rolling? Do these pauldrons bring out my sunken eye sockets? Whoops, need to jump over something, better strip down to my nasty underpants and try to remember which of my 17 pairs of trousers I left my car keys in. Here it's just one button press. Shell on, shell off. Like all great game mechanics, it knocks down multiple pins at once. It fits with the theme, encourages experimenting with gameplay styles, and adds a collectathon element for the psychos. Having said that, encouraging experimentation is all very well, but sooner or later the scientific process ends and you have to leave academia and get a real job. And a relatively short way into the game, I found a bit of old pipe with high defense and used it for basically the whole rest of the game. Might have been a mistake to let me insure my bit of old pipe for a small fee so I could respawn with it every time. Incidentally, the word respawn has suddenly become a lot more apropos, hasn't it? Because it turned the entire shell mechanic into a hollow, epidermis of its former self, and it's one of several questionable design decisions on the game's part. There's also a platforming focus, so the environments are having a bit of a love affair with bottomless pits. Don't gaze into the abyss, Another Crab's Treasure. The abyss is pretty emotionally unavailable these days, and I was falling down them from misjudging the recoil on some of my attacks more than I care to admit. But after a while I noticed that as I was falling down, I could pause, equip the one accessory that removes all penalties for falling into pits, then unequip it again as soon as I was safely back on solid ground, and that really felt like something I wasn't supposed to do. So as Souls-likes go, it's pretty easy, especially after you've gotten to grips with parrying and bought out the skill tree. But you know what? I'm fed up to the hollow eye sockets with everything trying to out-Souls the Souls just by getting harder all the time, when there are so many other ways. An engaging story full of characters with nice clear motives, that's a good start, and being actually funny. I mean, if slaughtering mindless, once intelligent beings en masse in a world inexorably creeping towards doom isn't a good time for giggles, I don't know what is. So I like having Crabs. It scratches an itch in a place I never knew I had, ironically. For all its points of dodgy design and slightly annoying camera, it's compelling and imaginative, and it has a heart of delicious lemony flesh in a yielding crunchy carapace. I mean, it's a cartoon game basically in the setting of SpongeBob SquarePants, whose story deals with themes of despotism, corruption, class division, exploitation of the poor, disillusionment, environmental collapse. There's a bit where giant creepy spiders with telephones on their heads fire lasers at you. And the final message of the story is, nothing's getting better, so fuck it. And that's pretty sound philosophy for a crab. An ambitious crab and a cowardly crab make an equally tasty bisque.
This video is brought to you by Game Maker, the free, fast, and easy-to-use 2D game engine that helps power modern classics like Undertale, Hotline Miami, and Hyper Light Drifter. Starter templates, official asset bundles, and a wealth of tutorials are available to help bring your ideas to life. And you can export and share your game for free on all non-console platforms. But you don't have to take my word for it, I'm just some jerk. We have an actual bona fide Game Maker on hand.
Oh shit, that's me. Yes, I've been using Game Maker for a long time. It's probably the most powerful and easiest to use engine for making 2D games out there, suitable for both amateurs and hardcore coders, and with all the Steam and console integration stuff for when you're ready to start monetizing your hobbies. I'm using it for my upcoming smash hit game, Starstruck Vagabond, which I assume will be a smash hit because Game Maker's that bloody great.
Head on over to the Game Maker link in the description to begin your game development journey today.